Welcome one to another edition of Play It Through, and on this edition it's Bart Simpson's Escape from Camp Deadly, brought to us by Acclaim. Bart Simpson's Escape from Camp Deadly was the first of the Simpsons games for the original Nintendo Game Boy, and also was the first portable Simpsons title, being released before the Game Gear version of Bart vs. the Space Mutants, and of course the follow-up to this, Bart vs. the Juggernauts, which came out a year after. In Camp Deadly, you're trying to get away from the evil Iron Fist Burns, who is running the titular Camp Deadly. And you play as, of course, Bart Simpson, and your goal is to platform and kind of make your way through the various camp activities until eventually you can escape the camp. After starting up the game, we get our opening storyline, though, before we jump into the morning activities, or Level 1. After pressing start after the opening storyline, you'll immediately come to a sign that tells you basically what's going on. Morning activity is capture the flag, and it's everybody versus Bart. Your real objective is to go through the level and be able to get to the end of it while dodging the various enemies. The screen scrolling in the game is rather slow. As you can see, Bart near the front of the screen, and the screen will just slowly try to catch up. Because of this, you can actually manipulate various enemies and be able to get over them quite easily. But you always have to keep in mind there are pitfalls, like the rivers and lakes or whatever you want to call them, throughout the course of the game that can cause us to fall to our doom. The controls actually are a bit better than some of the other early Simpsons titles. After getting past the beehive, make sure you don't walk into the bees, climb up this tree and you'll find Blindside Bill's treehouse. Now for Blindside Bill, what you're going to have to do is get behind him and throw one of our boomerangs that we've collected at him. At the top of the screen, you'll notice the amount of health you have, the amount of lives, your current score, as well as the amount of boomerangs that you still have. The boomerangs work as our main form of defense and can easily take out most of the enemies, but a lot of times you can just avoid them by jumping over them. For defeating Blindside Bill, we also get the beekeeper's outfit while up in that treehouse, and now we can walk easily past the bees just a little bit farther ahead. It will only last for a certain amount of time before we end up losing it, but I usually wait till I get on this tree branch, wait for it to go away if it still has any power left, before trying to traverse and platform my way over the rivers here. There's more beehives a little bit later on from the jumping, so just be careful and keep up high so you can jump over them. Be sure to climb this tree and make a huge leap over to the right side into the center of the lake, where there will be a rock or platform that we can stand on for a few seconds and then get past. The health is represented by the donuts in the center top portion of the screen, and when you get hit, you'll lose some, and your goal, of course, is to try to have as many of those as possible so that you can take some extra hits here and there. When playing the game for yourself, you're not going to want to take as many risks. You want to move Bart a little bit slower so that you'll be able to see what's upcoming. But after you play the game a few times, you start to memorize exactly how long you'll have to walk in the background items that signify when an upcoming jump is about to happen. After the morning activities, you go into the cafeteria for lunch, and now here you'll have a series of buffets, basically, and your goal is to kind of make it from the beginning to the end, collecting food items along the way. You can use the food items to take out the various enemies that are coming towards you, so you can let them kind of pile up if you're unable to get past them by jumping over them, wait for the right opportunity, and then launch the food at them. Whatever amount of food you have left after you get done a segment of the buffet, you'll get bonus points for keeping that with you, as well as end up getting extra health as well. So, at the end of the segment, you'll go to the trash can and slowly, unfortunately, dump off every one of the excess amounts of items that you currently have, and thus getting more health along the way for doing so. If this was one single segment of this whole thing, like one little bonus area just at beginning, it would be fine, but unfortunately it's multiple areas of this buffet that you have to complete. After doing the hamburgers, we then move on to broccoli, so your goal is the exact same though, just keep running through the buffet and throw the broccoli at the enemies anytime that you need to. This is a great way though to rack up extra health for the remaining parts of the game, but you probably won't need that much health in order to actually complete the game. During these segments, you'll also come to random like camp counselors or dining hall monitors or whatever. If you run into them, they force you to eat all the food that you currently have built up, so you won't get the bonus for the health at the end because you won't be able to just throw it away because of how bad it is. You'll be forced to actually eat it, in which case you also won't have ammo to use as well. Just avoid them if at all possible. After getting rid of the broccoli and getting even more health from it, we move on to the third segment of the buffet. This time we get to collect crab apples and launch the crab apples at the random enemies and build up some more health that we are probably not going to need in order to complete it. I'm not sure exactly why this is even done, or if there's maybe something I missed that you can kind of skip this portion, but for as far as I know, you have to complete all the segments of the buffet before you can then move on to the next level. After dumping off all of the crab apples, it's then time to move back outside and continue on our wonderful journey through Camp Deadly. We'll notice Lisa up here. You can grab some boomerangs from her in order to help you out. And the boomerangs do a fantastic job of knocking out these guys. I recommend taking out at least the first few. Thankfully, you can actually fire in mid-air, which was something that actually surprised me when I first started playing, because I just wasn't expecting the controls to actually allow me to do that. Over here, jump to the log in the middle and jump over to the right. You'll notice that their hit detection or collision detection of landing on things sometimes is a bit weird. Over here, take out the guy using the boomerang that's kind of just hanging there. Hit him with a boomerang and then just keep on moving your way over to the right. You'll come to a nuclear plant pipe. Go into it, and you'll have to avoid some nuclear waste and some weird things that are kind of moving along here. So slowly make your way, though, so you'll be able to dodge, jump over whatever ends up coming down or getting into your path. At the end of the area, go past the staircase and grab some more weapons if you want it, then go up the ladder and you'll pop out of the opposite side of the pipe a little bit farther into the level, and then continue what we've been doing by working our way over to the right, watching out for enemies. Sometimes they will fire out a projectile, like they threw that giant apple out at me, but I was able to easily jump over it because of the way it arcs kind of around. Climb up this tree here, walk to the edge, and do a big leap across so that you make sure that you land safely. Unfortunately, these giant mosquito-like bugs, I'm not sure what exactly they're supposed to be, but either way, they will start trying to attack you. I usually get hit at least once or twice during this segment because it's a bit rough. If you can get two of them behind you, more won't spawn in front of you, so you can keep them on moving. Be sure to jump on the logs and grab the flag, because you will need to grab that to make the screen start scrolling once again. Avoid more of the giant mosquito bug things and continue along the path. Lisa's up here again if you need more boomerangs. If you've run out, you can grab some more from her. And then eventually you'll come to another one of these nuclear waste pipes. Down here you're going to notice bugs, some crawling on the ground, which are a little bit harder to avoid because it's really actually kind of tough to see them when you're initially looking at the screen. And there's also big spiders, as you've seen, pouring down along the walls as well. Lisa, once again to the right, to grab some more boomerangs if you need it, but head outside the pipe by climbing up the ladder and continue along the stage with more of these camp bullies or whatever they are trying to take out Bart. Be sure to grab the flag here so that you can continue moving the screen, and if you're fast enough with it, you can just keep on walking, and you'll have to jump every once in a while to avoid the apples, but a large portion of the time you can just keep on moving. Eventually you will come to another one of the lakes, so you will have to maneuver around and jump to a couple of the logs floating in the water itself, but the game is actually relatively lenient, like I said, with the hit detection as far as landing on these. Climb up this tree here, you'll have to deal with Nelson. Go ahead and throw the boomerang at him. You'll see that his body gets all kind of distorted when you end up hitting him. It'll only take a few hits to end up defeating him. He'll drop apples down on you, trying to hit you if you were actually below him, But make sure that you keep grabbing your boomerang when you throw it, that way that you'll be able to keep it in your inventory. With all that built up extra health that we gained during that whole lunch buffet segment, it shouldn't be really too much trouble in order to hit Nelson enough in order to knock him off the tree and be able to continue along the path. After getting the last flag, it'll then get to another sign that says Bart has won the Capture the Flag segment, and it's now time for dinner. Yep, more of what we did earlier, where this time we'll be collecting various other objects along the whole buffet line, but it's the exact same thing we dealt with before. Unfortunately, this segment is as long as the one during the lunch cycle. You're going to have 3 sets, 3 different items to gather. Once you make it to the end, you'll throw all that stuff right in the garbage. Such a useful, like, I understand it's camp food, and from Camp Deadly, I'm sure the food is absolutely terrible, but we're just throwing it all out there, just immediately grabbing as much as possible and to throw it away so no one can eat anything. Like, so the kids there are gonna starve, though, I mean, like, I guess you're doing it so that the kids don't have to eat, like, stuff like liver pizza, but at the same time, then they're not gonna eat anything, and, you know, so, I don't know, I guess I'd rather eat liver pizza than to starve to death, I get, but, you know, maybe that's just me. You have to let me know. After dumping off all that liver pizza, it's time for one more item, thankfully. Just one more, and it's dessert. Yeah, it's dessert. We get prune ice cream for this last segment here in the dinner portion. I have so much health that's now been built up, I can take several hits from these guys. So sometimes I'll push it, just keep moving to the right no matter what, not even stopping. Once in a while, they'll throw that fork at me. I'm able to easily jump over it and avoid them. Because of just how slow everything moves with your jumping and all that stuff, it's what makes it easy to be able to avoid a lot of the enemies. The weapons that they throw out and just everything is extremely easy to bypass. You do have to take out all the enemies a little before the trash can, so like if you make it to the trash can, you will have to take those guys out so you can activate it. Throw away all that great prune ice cream or whatever, and now we finally get to move on to the next portion of the game. So, the next level is us scaling the Mount Deadly. I'm sure it's not deadly whatsoever. This portion of the game is a little bit different than the earlier segment and is definitely tougher, so hopefully you do have a decent amount of health that's been built up. I'm going to take the quickest path in order to get through this, so we're going to start by climbing all the way to the very top portion here. You can stop here in order to pick up some boomerangs from Lisa, so that you do have some sort of weaponry at your disposal. Rocks will be thrown out randomly from the caves. I guess there's just cave people or former members of Camp Deadly that are just somehow living up in this cave because they never were able to escape. Either way, walk to the edge of this platform, do a big leap, and then you can jump over to the right. You have to make a few jumps here in order to avoid falling down. After doing this portion several times, I figured out exactly when I need to make the jumps, but if you take your time, the screen will scroll properly, so you'll be able to actually make it. When you make it to the edge, though, climb up the next segment here. While going up here, you'll notice, of course, more of the guys throwing some of the large rocks. There's some birds, eagles, or whatever. They're going to fly from the other side of the screen, which are a bit annoying. But climb all the way to the top, and you can enter the cave up here. Once in here, drop down, avoid the bats while falling. Sometimes you can avoid them all, other times with the movement you'll be slightly off. Grab the ladder on the way down and make sure that you land safely. Work your way over to the right. There's some skulls on the ceiling that will fall while you're making your way over here, so be careful of all those. There is a skeleton a little bit ways in that you can jump over and avoid, or if you end up getting hit, you should have plenty of health at this point. Eventually you will come to the ladder. You can use your boomerang to take out a bat that's slightly above the ladder, and then start working your way up. You do climb rather slowly, unfortunately, but either way you should be able to avoid the bats if you hang on like the very edge of the ladder. Eventually you'll make it to the top and be able to come out the other side of the cave. Now, during the next segment, head over to the right, make a big leap to the center, and then a couple of small platforms. This is the trickier segment, jumping. Make sure that the screen has scrolled enough so that the next platform that you need to land on has become visible so that you'll be able to land safely. At the edge, you'll then have to do a little bit more climbing. During the course of this, you can stop and pick up more boomerangs if you do want them, though you may not need them. If you still have 5, you shouldn't even need them. From Lisa, and then continue along the way up. Now, this guy is throwing rocks here, but that is the cave that you need to enter, so wait for an opportunity between rock throws, and then go inside and start climbing another ladder. The whole time while doing so, you'll have to avoid more bats. At the top of the ladder, go through the door, and you'll now be to the last segment of the game. You're now leaving the camp property, and you're going to try to gain access to the power plant. Now here, you'll have some other security guards, I think they're supposed to be, but they're basically the exact same enemies as those, like, camp bullies or whatever from earlier on in the game, so they work pretty much the same. The only enemy that's a real nuisance is the bear. So we'll have to deal with him in just a bit, but he's a bit of a pain to kind of deal with and one of the tougher enemies. Climb up the tree and make sure you jump over the lake. So you want to kind of edge your way over here in order to get the giant mosquitoes or whatever to spawn, so you can try to take a few of those out with the boomerang. You don't want to go too fast here because these guys do spawn pretty easily and can be a bit of a pain to try to avoid altogether. When you make it to the edge here, do a big leap over to a log that will be moving along the water. You can then make another leap up and hit the tree branch. You can land safely on that tree branch and then continue over to the other side. Eventually you'll come to the bear, jump over the bear, and then what you're going to want to do is jump back over him once he starts chasing you. Wait a few seconds, he'll come back, and then jump over him again, and he'll go off screen. This way you avoid the bear, and you can get past him. Eventually you'll come to another riverbed, where you'll have to move to another moving log. There is a giant fish that's jumping out in the middle. Wait for that, of course, to go back into the water before attempting to jump to the second log, and then over to the right shoreline. You'll have to deal with more of the giant mosquito bug things while working your way along here. Up this tree is another Lisa, so you can grab some more boomerangs if you needed them, but we should be pretty good. After that, though, there will be more of the security guards starting to spawn. They will throw pine cones or something at you. Either way, you can jump over them to easily avoid them as they're trying to sneak up from behind you. After a while, you'll want to climb up this tree and then be able to kind of force those security guards. They'll fall into the water, and then you'll jump to a couple of logs while avoiding the giant fish popping out. Once you're back safely on the opposite shoreline, jump over the roaring fires that are going along here. There shouldn't really be anyone technically here because this is the top of the mountain or whatever, but there's a lot of fires. You can jump along the stumps of the trees so that you can avoid the burning fire. Eventually you'll come to another one of those nuclear plant pipes. Go down there, you'll have more of the spiders, bugs, or whatever on the walls. If they hit the ground, they're going to start crawling towards you once again, so they're a little bit rough to see if they are crawling along the bottom, but Either way, try to make your way through this area, also avoiding whatever those rotating things are as well. Now, when you make it over to the end here, you want to slowly move the screen over enough so you can see the light above. Throw the boomerang diagonally upwards to take out the lights. You don't want to move too far because that'll end up spawning Iron Fist here that you'll have to deal with. But if you hit all the light bulbs, you can go over Iron Fist, climb up the ladder, in which case you can then hit the do not touch this switch thing and you'll teleport to the top of the mountain overlooking the camp, and then you get your ending screen, seeing Bart and Lisa high-fiving, Homer and Marge are there embracing for whatever reason, Maggie and a random squirrel, I think. Either way though, after a few seconds of that, it'll then go back to the main title screen, and you can start this game all over again if you want it. But anyway guys, that'll wrap up this episode of Play It Through. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider giving me a thumbs up or commenting down below. If you enjoyed this, be sure to check out some of the other Simpsons related videos I've done recently, including Bart vs. the Space Mutants for the Sega Genesis, and what is considered, at least by me, the worst of the NES Simpsons games, Bart Meets Radioactive Man, which is just one of my least favorite of all of the Simpsons games that have ever come out. I also need to thank all the members of my Patreon. You guys do keep this channel alive. With your continued monthly pledges, it allows me to keep doing what I'm doing. And if you'd like to help out, click the little Patreon button as well. You can get to the page and find out all the details for it. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. And of course, I hope you enjoyed.